Welcome to Y11 Audio. I'm Alex Alvarado. Thank you for listening. One more final previous week's episode. Let's just hammer through this. We don't need to introduce this anymore, right? We've been doing this for 3 weeks. We know the drill. Thank you for everybody that has been listening, though. Appreciate you guys checking in, half the episodes, all these episodes, whatever the case may be. I know I've been throwing a lot at you as of late, but I appreciate you taking the ride to get here to introduce the college football season, which begins in 1 week. Literally, I have the Ireland game, the pregame conversations on game day on mute, so I can't hear neither anything good that Nick Saban has to say or anything stupid that anybody else has to say. No names on that. 3 more MAC teams: Bowling Green, NIU, Toledo. The final pod, probably the most interesting group of 3 teams, at least for this college football season. All these guys are important to talk about when it comes to discussing the MAC championships history over the last 10 years, maybe a little bit longer, especially when we talk about NIU going all the way back to the inception of the MAC championship game, how Toledo was always kind of in it year in and year out against Marshall. NIU, of course, has had the biggest come up and has had a lot of national success with Jordan Lynch years in the early 2010s, and then going on facing Bowling Green 3 times in a row in the 2013 through 2015 seasons, has had a couple more opportunities to get back in there, got back into the MAC championship game against Kent State, a few years ago. So NIU is always a part of it. Toledo is always generally picked to be in the running for it, at least. Right? If they're not the favorites, which right now they're the second place favorites in the coaches poll, Toledo is always expected to be part of it. Bowling Green, like I said, was part of that, has seen some success over the years. You can remember, maybe not. I personally don't remember, but I know reading about it, like Urban Meyer years, and then Dave Clawson, and then Dino Babers. All these different coaches have had success, and then after the Dino Babers era, it just took a while for them to finally get to a point where they feel comfortable being in this conversation. Now Scott Loeffler, maybe he actually has things turned around there. So let's start with the Falcons, and let's get through these 3 teams alphabetically, and then we can get to the season, my friends. Like, if you're going to make a dark horse pick for this year, let it be Bowling Green. Let it be the Bowling Green Falcons. This is a team that by the end of last season, you can ask anybody I know that I talk about this with, I was high on Bowling Green's chances for this season by the way they closed out last season. Like, in the Loeffler era, look at this run. Look at this run since 2019. 3-9, which included a 20-7 win over Toledo. That was, Scott Loeffler's first highlight victory, first FBS win, beat Morgan State before that in that season. 3-9 his first year, 0-5 in 2020, 4-8 in 21, 6-7 in 22, then 7-6 last year. You have every right to believe that they have the goods to keep things going even in the face of the transfer portal era. Sure, this is a place where the best talents that are worthy of going to the SEC and Big Ten, they ought to leave Bowling Green for. But some of these guys, they decide to stick around and to see if they can bring home a championship. Ali Saad's a guy who actually transferred out of the Big Ten in Minnesota when he was a freshman. Sure, he hasn't been an all-MAC guy yet, but maybe this is the year where he can actually be that. But some of the highlight names like Harold Fannin, who's a flex tight end, he's not a traditional. I mean, he is bigger than you think. He's listed at 6'4", 250, but he's not I don't know. To me, he just didn't look like a 6'5". Obviously, I'm saying numbers that are bigger than what he is, but a 6'5", a 250 kind of guy. He didn't seem like that. He just seemed smaller but played bigger. He was definitely, maybe he was smaller and he got bigger. Let me check out. Let me see something really quickly. Okay, so last year he was listed at 6'4", 230, so it seems like he put on 20 pounds of weight over this offseason, judging from the differences of last year's listed roster size and this year's size in the Phil Steele magazine. I'd like to think that there's some truth to that he's bulked up, that he's a bigger option now. If that's the case, if he's a bigger, stronger, and still as athletic as he's shown to be over the past couple of seasons, Harold Fannin could absolutely repeat as a first-team All-MAC tight end and be, a difference maker for this team. This is a team that I don't think is going to win by spreading it out and being like a 5-wide team. I think this is a team that's, gonna try to be tough-nosed, is gonna, meet the identity that Scott Loeffler has been trying to build there, which is, tough-nosed and confidence, being tough-nosed, being confident in every decision that you do. I didn't say be flashy. I didn't say be, someone that like outthinks their opponent by like an extreme amount or just being like the most creative team. I said just be confident out there in everything that you do. And that's what this team does. I don't think that Connor Bazelak is the greatest quarterback out there. Terrion Stewart, for as much as he is my favorite player in the MAC, like there's 1,000 players in this league, he's my number one favorite to watch. There's no guarantee that he's going to be on the field for 12 games this season. I don't think he's ever shown that. Even though he was a second team All-MAC guy, doesn't mean he's going to show up every game this season. There's no guarantee that these transfers, for as skilled and as promising as Malcolm Johnson from Auburn, a former 4-star receiver, for as promising as RJ Garcia from Kansas State, who played at Kansas State, actually caught a touchdown pass in the 2022 Big 12 title game, right? That's a pretty important stage to play in. There's no guarantee that the connection from Bazelak to these guys are 100% going to pan out. Though I believe it could. Though I believe that it should. I believed in Odu Hilaire. Why not believe in these guys, especially when you have, some pretty good running backs to lean on when they're healthy, when they're on the field. Stewart, Jason Patterson, etc. Their O-line, Phil Steele's magazine, I'm kind of leaning on this right now for this preview. He says that this is, even though that they lose a couple of guys, neither of the guys that they lost are all MAC guys, so this could be, quote, the best O-line they have ever had here under Loeffler, unquote. If that's the case, I think it takes like a top, within the MAC, a top 4 to 3 O-line just to get into the front door of Detroit. And I thought that thought that true when there was the division splits. Now that there's no division, having a strong O-line is probably more important than it ever has been before. So having that checkbox, and the O-line is going to be a very important theme in today's episode. Having that checked off is going to bode well for the rest of the team, of course. Their defense is pretty damn good. A few guys that could make some steps up this year. I still think that they return a lot of talent. Probably the biggest get for like an immediate sort of, we expect out a lot of you situation. CJ Brown, straight out of Northern Illinois, multi-year All-MAC, All-MAC recipient. CJ Brown had, if he was going to hit the transfer portal with that kind of resume, I thought it was going to be to a bigger program, a bigger, more moneyed program. But looks like he wants to finish out his career. Why wouldn't you want to finish it on a high note anywhere if you're going to stay in the MAC? Bowling Green was his choice. A lot of people are saying that this could be the league's top defense by the end of the year. I don't know. I wouldn't put my money on that. I think that there is a lot of ability. I think that this team, especially like down the stretch, a couple of these games. Okay, let me. The last 5 games last year, 3 of them are a little sus, but the very last 2 are good. In the last 5 games, they beat Akron 41-14. Okay, it's Akron. Beat Ball State 24-21. Okay, probably should have beat them by a little bit more, right? Kent State beat them on the road 49-19. Okay, Kent State. The last 2, Toledo, obviously them. Lost to them 32-31. And then, like I said before, beat Western Michigan when they were 2-point favorites by 24. 34-10. And that's with like a lot of ability that Western has. Toledo, obviously, they're very neck and neck there. So I don't know. I think that Bowling Green, they have what it takes. They have the goods. They have the coaching ability. I think that they could look better than they've been last year. And I thought that they looked really impressive, of course. Like I watched them with the lens of thinking that they were going to regress down to what they were closer in the COVID years. But no, they've only been excelling over the past couple of years as the seasons have gone on. It's only right for me to just buy into what Scott Loeffler's selling over there at Bowling Green. And I think that they're going to take some steps up in the right direction. We'll see some sort of improvement, knock on wood, at the quarterback position. And I know we're talking about a Scott Loeffler team here. But with a little bit of improvement in the quarterbacks, with maybe some sort of just balance with the running backs, maybe Stewart isn't going to be the guy that carries the ball 200 to 300 times. At this point, not going to expect that out of him. But if he can stay healthy for 12 games and still have, 150 carries on the year, still do his thing and average like 4 to 5 yards a carry, make a bunch of guys miss, because he is definitely one of the best in the nation at making people miss. That is his thing. But him, maybe some added depth behind him can help balance things out. You don't need Terrion Stewart on the field every play, just some of the plays. They could squeak one out. They could squeak it out. I could see it. But like I said, I did believe that this could be a really, really good opportunity by the end of last season heading into this one. As the months went on, I've, just kind of regressed to what's normal around here, which is thinking that the two best teams that are perennially built, at least very recently, Miami and Toledo, those were the guys that I think ended up with the best scenarios for me. I also just look at Bowling Green's schedule for this year. This is where we're going to cap it off at. It's pretty good. You still have to play Toledo, of course. You have to play them every year. You do have to play Miami, which really stinks. And you also get the test of Western Michigan and Northern Illinois. This is not an easy schedule in the MAC. Definitely some good opportunities. Some good wins to be had, but some bad losses to also maybe suffer here. Home to Fordham, at Penn State, at Texas A&M, home to Old Dominion. And there's a bye week in that September too. So they might be a little bit rested early on. At Akron versus NIU versus Kent State, at Toledo, and then Maction at Central, home to Western Michigan, at Ball State, and then they finish the year home to Miami of Ohio. And that Miami-Ohio game is obviously going to be really, really big. I mean, all of them are really big. Like those 4 games that I said, those are all very, very pivotal. I picked Bowling Green because their schedule, as good as I think Bowling Green is, I don't know if I can 100% buy into the offense taking a leap forward in 8 conference games this year. I don't know if that's 100% going to be the case, because even if Connor Bazelak is more agile and more healthy than what he's been coming off of injury last year, I think he kind of played the year hurt too. I don't know if he's going to play at the level that's going to put Bowling Green over the top. Could be wrong. He could be the guy that gives Bowling Green like 7 come-from-behind victories in MAC play. Could definitely see that being a thing. But until that actually happens, I have Bowling Green going 7-5 on the year, 5-3 in MAC play. Once we get into the conference schedule, Bowling Green, I'm just going to say the losses. I think it's easier to read the losses at this point. Bowling Green's losses to NIU, Toledo, and Miami. Those are just going to be very, very tough games. Any one of those flips, it's a much better situation for Bowling Green, but it might have to be the right ones. You might really want to have to beat Miami, especially if Miami is close to what I'm thinking for them. And if they go, right now I have, like you've already listened to, I have Miami going 7-1. Flip that game. Both of you are 6-2. Sure, you have to deal with Western Michigan too, but you could beat them there. I don't know. I could see a number of situations happen for Bowling Green, but too many tough games, especially if you're the dark horse going up against some other dark horses. I don't know. You got to lose some in my eye. NIU, of course, under head coach Thomas Hammock, alum, former running back for the Huskies. You know he's going to pound the rock. He told you that's exactly what he wanted to do when he got hired in, and that's exactly what they've continued to do, whether it's brought his team success or not. Did it happen in 2021? Yep. Yes, it did. It happened immediately. 9-5 MAC championship over Kent State in the final, even though they lost to Kent State on the road during the regular season, 52-47. They still ended up winning in the Dome 41-23. But since then, I don't know. Let's go back to 2019 and actually work our way forward. 2019, the team went 5-7, then 0-6 in 2020 when it was basically just 20 freshmen on the field at all times for them. Then, like I said, 9-5 immediately the year after that. 3-9 after going 9-5. Then 7-6 last year. Just a lot of topsy-turvy, what a roller coaster. What a roller coaster of a program. This is a team that wants to get back on track, not just in the sense of like MAC dominance and whatnot, but wants to get back on the track of just running the damn ball all of the time. Looking at, I just use Pro Football Focus's just snap count numbers because they have them divided by run, snaps where passing snaps and running snaps, they have them divided those two ways. So I just divided them to see, hey, how often are you passing the ball? How often are you running the ball? Over the last year NIU was much more 50-50 than you might think. 9% of the time they ran the ball, which means 49% they passed it. That's not really the norm. Last year they led the league in run play percentage at 55%. 2022. In 2022, they led the league in that. And then in 2021, when they won the title, can you guess what the run play percentage was? 61%. 61% of the time they ran the ball. They didn't have to throw the ball, even though, Rocky Lombardi, who was a first-year transfer with Clint Rakovich, the fullback, tight end, do-it-all kind of guy, right? Those guys definitely helped out in that 2021 season in the pass game, but only 39% of the time. They didn't have to do it all the time because they were just so effective at what they do. And, that's kind of the common theme here. Hey, find what you're good at and be good at it. NIU wanted to be good at the run, and they were. Last year, they couldn't be. They just, in 2022, they were just too injured at a lot of spots, but they still preferred to run the ball because that was their best option. And then last year, just not enough was going for them in too many games. Obviously, they still made it to a bowl game, still played against Arkansas State, still won that game too. And with Ontario Brown too, who is an incredible running back who has averaged at least 6 yards a carry in each of his 3 seasons played, 6.6 as a freshman, 81 carries there, 6.3 as a sophomore, 110 carries there. Last year had almost 1,300 yards, rushed for 6.1 yards per attempt on 212 carries, 10 scores. That was obviously his best posting. I definitely think the dude's capable of doing more, especially if the O-line is as good as Phil Steele is saying that this is, even though that they lost a couple of all-MAC guys. They, quote, basically have 4 starters coming back with 113 career starts, and this remains one of the MAC's top O-lines. Yeah, I mean, if that's been the identity and if that's been the plan, for the entire Thomas Hammock tenure, yeah, you're going to build towards losing guys, but replacing them with run blockers that fit the identity of what you want to do. So I think simply running the ball, they'll be good, but can they pass enough effectively to just throw the defenses off just a little bit? Jalen Macon, he comes in from Arkansas Pine Bluff, can do multiple things, but never seen it at this level. So it's definitely and he's very young too. He's not coming in as a grad transfer, but he's got some size, man. 6'5", 230. If he does run, that's definitely hard for the 160, 170 pound cornerbacks to step up and make a play sort of deal. If he's as tough as that size should indicate, right? If that's the case, you got to get a hand on him, and he might be effective in the run game too. He might be effective in the pass game as a scrambler too. You gotta keep that in mind. Rocky Lombardi did not have that. For as willing as he was to do a lot of things and to play, not the best brand of football, but just good enough for him to have the success that he could. Battling some health concerns throughout his career too, right? He wasn't an amazing passer out there, even on the adjusted percentages, adjusted completion percentage in his years at NIU, 68.9% in 2021. Hardly played in 2022 because he was injured, but at 75% there. And then let's round it up to 69% last year. But it's the pressures to sacks that look really, really bad for him. 16% of the time, pressures turned to sacks in 2021. And then let's round it up to 19% last year. No bueno. No bueno. You got to scramble more. You got to scramble better. If Jalen Macon can be a better scrambler, I'd have to double check a little bit more. But I don't think that Rocky Lombardi really gave them a lot with his legs in terms of like getting first downs. Actually, let me check that out right now. Okay, so in 2021, he was very good in that regard. He got first downs with his legs 43 times. And then one time in 2022, okay, he was injured. And then last year, just 23 times. So he was half as good as he used to be. So that's where the recency bias is coming in for me there. On runs that went for 10 plus yards, he went from 16 in 2021 to 8 in 2023. All of this is via Pro Football Focus. If Jalen Macon can get to where Rocky Lombardi was in that regard, I think that this is going to be a good deal for him. I definitely think that it'll open up opportunities for guys like Grayson Barnes and Trayvon Rudolph to finish up their careers on really, really high notes. I don't think that they're going to be guys that lead the MAC in receptions or anything like that. They might get large percentages of targets for their own team, and maybe that'll juice up their stats a little bit more, but I don't think that they're going to be super highly ranked on the whole by the end of the year. NIU, I trust that NIU is going to have some defensive ability, even though they lost a really good secondary piece, like I said, to Bowling Green. I still think that NIU might have, they have just as much goods as Bowling Green does, where I'm kind of worried about the quarterback situation a little bit, but I think that they can get some talent out there. I think that they might have enough talent out there to get the job done. I think that they have enough of an attitude that the coach has been instilling in this program, and maybe it could work. I don't know. I also know that like NIU has not, in the moments where it has shot itself in the foot and has not delivered in moments when it should have. Like last year's beginning stretch really, really stunk, even after winning at Boston College. Sure, you lose at Nebraska. Okay, whatever. But before that, you lost to Southern Illinois, right? You lose to Southern Illinois, lose to Tulsa, lose to Toledo. You try to get some momentum back by beating Akron by like a crap ton, beating Ohio, the defending MAC champions, by 10, and then you beat EMU after that 20-13. But then you lose to Central Michigan, lose to Ball State. I don't really think you should have lost to those teams. Like anybody that I want to consider as like somebody who's going to go into Detroit and win the MAC championship over teams like Miami and Toledo, who I think are going to be really good this year. It's hard for me to be convinced when you have losses like those, like at Central and to Ball State. Like, those are two teams that you definitely should beat. But new year, new team. Then you blanked Western Michigan. Then you beat Kent State. You let Kent State cover too, huh? So NIU, let's read off their schedule right quick. Western Illinois, at Notre Dame, home to Buffalo, at NC State, home to UMass, at Bowling Green, home to Toledo, at Ball State, then action at Western Michigan, home to Kent, at Miami, Ohio, and then home to Central Michigan. One of your dirtiest foes out there. Lost to Central Michigan in each of the last 2 seasons, too. Might want to throw that in there. So, can they get it done? Can they replace some of the pieces that left them on defense? Will that offensive line be good enough to push them forward into Detroit? You're asking a lot out of that NIU group, in my opinion. But I still think that NIU can have a really good year, but I don't know if I could see an argument where NIU has the goods to get it all done. I'm very worried about how this coaching staff I love the way that Thomas Hammock calls plays. If you've listened to me before, I love it. I love how confident he is in throwing in just like all these unique play designs week in and week out, and really try to like keep coordinators on the other side guessing and all that stuff. And I think that they have some good players on defense. Rasheed Thomas, Roy Williams, the cornerback Javon Bird, they're all decent. Tom Foley's got a good punter. And I like some of the pieces at offense. I just don't like the way that NIU has been performing consistently over the years. I don't know, like if NIU doesn't get lucky enough to have its MAC championship run in 2021, I don't know how much I want to buy into this team this year. I want to buy into it because I have seen this logo with this coaching staff do it before. But if they're going to get it done, they're not going to get it done the easy way. They've told you that before. They're going to get it done the hard way. And it has to be the hard way with this roster. I don't know if this is going to be one of the most talented rosters in the MAC. I think it's going to be talented in some areas, but across the board, it's just hard for me to see it. So with that schedule, I say 5-7. I say 3-5 in MAC play. I'll be the hater here, but hey, not all these teams can have great years. Not all these teams can live up to your optimistic dreams. I don't think NIU is going to do that. What wins do I have them having in MAC play? I have them beating Buffalo. I have them beating UMass isn't in the MAC, but I have them beating UMass. I have them beating Bowling Green, losing to Toledo, but I also have them beating Ball State, losing to Western, and then losing to Akron, like I said before. I just think that could be I just think that could be a special surprise inside. Just the way that this kind of series has gone over the past couple of years, I don't know. They lost to Akron to end the season in 2022, 44-12, and then at Akron, NIU beat them 55-14. I don't know. It's just an interesting series as of recent, and I'd like to see Akron just play up to NIU's level and just like come away with a scary one. I also have NIU losing to Miami because I just think Miami's a way better team. All right, let's finish things up. Toledo, usually the people's pick for winning the MAC or at least getting into Detroit, and rightfully so. Yeah, they lose a lot of pieces this year. They lose the MAC's best player, the MAC's 2 best players on offense. It's running back Penny Boone, who finally landed. I don't remember where he landed. Don't really care right now. UCF. He's at UCF. That's where he's at. And then Daquan Finn, who was recently named the starting quarterback for Baylor. Under Jason Candle, obviously the talk is always about completing games, just having the special teams focus every once in a while where sometimes it lacks, but it doesn't always lack in the recruiting department. Sure, it's not always number one, but it's usually bringing in some very good pieces through the high school ranks, through the portal, keeping guys around. And it's also really good at just developing these guys along the way. Does it live up to the billing of being a MAC championship team year in and year out? No. What about last year? Even though it won 11 games, even though it went 8-0 in conference play, it lost the one most important MAC game of the year that everybody looks forward to, the one that matters most. Lost the MAC championship game to Miami 23-14, even after beating Miami in their own house 21-17 earlier that year, even with starting quarterback Brett Gabbert being carted off the field in that game to give you a crap ton of just an advantage, a big, big, big advantage at what should be your faux home stadium. Now, even though Toledo has been to 2 straight MAC championship games, can it reach a third? Can it reach a third without the division splits for once? This is a team that's going to be impacted the most by losing the division splits. So can they survive that? Will they be able to? They operationally should be able to. They absolutely should. But will they? That's always going to be the question. Read a cool piece in the Toledo Blade that highlighted that there are 2 guys who landed on the I'm blanking on his name already, on the Bruce Feldman Freaks list. They had 2 guys in the top 60, which is 1 guy more than Georgia had on the whole list, which is really, really impressive, right? Jacquez Stewart for being incredibly, incredibly fast. Darius Alexander, a defensive lineman, for his broad jump and utter strength. This is a very, very talented unit. If Toledo is not going to play good football, it's going to win its games by just having better athletes on the field. That's essentially, to dumb it down as much as I can, the formula for Toledo over the years. And that might have to be the formula this year. But they should probably have to clean up in the football department. And I would suspect that they probably will. Even losing a couple of really good players, I don't know if that Toledo... Toledo's probably going to be fine. Toledo's just probably going to be fine. Just to say what it is. It's probably just going to be fine. Over the last 5 years, 6-6 in 2019, 4-2 in 2020, 7-6 in 2021, and then in their 2 MAC championship appearance years, at least, in 2022, they won it over Ohio 17-7 to go 9-5 on the calendar year, and then 11-3 last year with a MAC title loss to Miami. This year, even though they lose those 2 guys, like I said, they still return hella talent. Jacquez Stewart's going to be a good running back, a very, very fast one at that. Probably said that he was faster than Quinyon Mitchell, was clocked at 23.62 miles per hour in a sprint. I can't do that. I'm just going to make a bold prediction here. Tucker Gleason, I think Tucker Gleason will be... Let's see. Let me think. Hold on. Let me think twice. Because my initial prediction is that he's going to at least pick up where DeQuan Finn left off in the passing department and might actually be better than that. Now, do I want to take it a step further? Yep, I do want to take it a step further. All MAC first team recipient at quarterback, Tucker Gleason. I'm going to say it. He and his quarterback coach, they have been together for a very long time. He has been his high school coach. When we always talk about what's the quarterback's relationship going to be with the quarterback coach, offensive coordinator, blah, blah, blah. Okay, they just met. Hey, how much can they get done on the fly? These guys have known each other since Tucker Gleason was a teenager, at least from Tampa, Florida. So I think that there's just going to be enough synergy there. As much as DeQuan Finn was a good quarterback and can probably do good things for Baylor because he's able to be a good dual threat and all that stuff. I don't think that Tucker Gleason won't be without his upsides either. If he's going to be better than DeQuan Finn in anything, maybe it'll be in the adjusted percentage. And I've been going to adjusted completion percentage a lot in this podcast series, or previous series for the podcast rather, just because I like that it takes away, or it factors in the drops and all that stuff. But he finished up at 70.8 last year, 68.8% in 2022, and then 67.2% in 2021. Still, DeQuan Finn was still really good. I don't want to like overshadow and say that, hey, he wasn't all that good, because I don't want to come away with that tone. He was very, very effective, man. Like, he was super duper good, and I'm glad that he ended up having the career that he did at Toledo. Because I remember when he was a freshman and that he had initially committed to Central Michigan and then ended up flipping his commitment to Toledo. Like, he was a guy that I thought was going to be a problem in the MAC no matter where he went. So in 2021, he had 18 touchdowns, 2 interceptions through the air. Then the next two ratios after that, 23 and 12, 22 and 9, was a 2,000-yard passer in each of those 3 seasons. 2,600 yards last year. Per Pro Football Focus, had 19 big-time throws. Love saying those words. 5.5% of the time. Maybe too many turnover-worthy throws. 19 of them by Pro Football Focus's standards. But whatever, man. That's what college is for. You're supposed to make mistakes. You're supposed to, like, ask for forgiveness later. That's what you're supposed to do. His pressures to sack percentage went from 22.6% in 2021 down to 14% in 2022, and then down to 8.4% last year. That's hard to do, man. You don't do that without being an effective runner. Will Tucker Gleason give this offense the same ability to extend plays, not just like through the air, because I think he definitely has the talent to do that, but with his feet, not just rushing for the first downs, but to avoid the pressures like DeQuan Finn excelled at last year? That's going to be really something. DeQuan Finn, first downs gained with his legs, 27 to 44 to 28 from 21 through 23. I think this offense has a lot of ability, has a lot of talent. I think Tucker Gleason has ability to do it. He was a dual threat coming out of high school, played through injuries when he had to play for DeQuan Finn, over time, like over the last couple of years too. I don't know, man. I think he could. I think the ability is there. I would not be surprised one bit if Tucker Gleason ended up having the best season as a quarterback in the MAC this year. Would not surprise me one bit if Toledo just had the best quarterback in the league. Let me know if you ever heard that before. They have so much talent around the field, man. Junior Vandross to throw to, Jaden Dotton, Jerwan Newton, bro, Anthony Torres at tight end. Maxon Hook is probably my favorite defensive player in the league this year. Was a safety that went all over the place. I thought he had the ability to transfer out and go to like a P5 program, but he's deciding to stick it out there. A lot of push up front at D-line, raging. Kayvon Butler, I think he's a former Kentucky transfer, if I'm not mistaken. Daniel Bolden at linebacker. Lots of ability. They just have to be able to put it all together. And I think they can. I think that they just certainly have all the pieces to do it. Except, here we go. Here's where we're going to go. And this is what's probably going to trip up Toledo the most this year. Let me quote from the Phil Steele magazine. This year, at offensive line, they lose their center, their right guard, their first-team All-MAC left guard, and their first-team All-MAC left tackle. And another player with a very, very long name. I'm not even going to try it. They have 3 Power 5 and an FCS transfer, but with 0 career starts back. 0 career starts at offensive line. This team is super duper unexperienced. you have to put a lot of faith into the operation of Toledo, not just in the developmental cycles, but in the recruiting department at offensive line. You have to put a lot of faith in Toledo being able to, or having done the work already, to get this offensive line in a good, trustable position to start the year out. Because whoever they end up having as their front five, it's going to be their first college starts across the board. And we're going to say, yeah, that's what's going to lead the most talented team outside of O-line, the most talented team to Detroit. That's going to be much harder, or much easier said than done. So Toledo, good luck to you. What do I have? Let's read off their schedule really quickly. Duquesne, UMass, both of them at home, at Mississippi State, at Western Kentucky, home to Miami, Ohio, at Buffalo, at NIU, home to Bowling Green, at EMU, home to Central Michigan, home to Ohio, and then at Akron to end the year. The tough part of the schedule is right there in the middle with Miami, Buffalo, NIU, Bowling Green, and EMU. We'll throw them in there. If Central Michigan's any good, I don't know. We'll wait and see. But that's so far towards the end of the year. Who knows if the depth's even going to hold up for teams like EMU and Central Michigan, right? But most of the confidence, by and large, are in three of those teams right there in October: Miami, NIU, Bowling Green. Two of the dark horses, like we talked about, and then Miami, the MAC favorite. Somebody who, if all turns out right, you could see for a fourth time in 2 years in Detroit, if those two are the two representatives in the MAC championship game. I have Toledo going perfect in conference play, and their only loss this year is going to be to Mississippi State. Wouldn't be surprised if they cleaned house otherwise. I think they have the talent to do it. I also think I could be wrong. I think that they could maybe clinch and then slip up there at the end. But I definitely, at this point, I just think that the strength of Toledo's roster and everything that they have going for it should definitely surge past Central, Ohio, and Akron. But I also think that for the rest of the schedule, so don't feel bad, you guys. All right. That's going to do it for me. I've previewed the MAC. I've previewed EMU. I've gone through, I could have done more, 37 pages worth of notes on my document here just to tell you all about EMU's roster at every position, to tell you about the MAC, and tell you a few of my most forward thoughts across the board at all of these 12 schools. Wanted to make room for UMass, but you know what? I got UMass coming up, man. I'll waste my brain cells on them coming up very, very soon. The plan right now is to have episodes twice a week for you on this feed, and then a lot more content on the newsletter. Consistency is something I have to strive for generally, but also just putting out as much content for you guys to eat up and to enjoy. I really enjoy watching this conference. It's not the most moneyed, the most advertised, the most sought out league in the world. It's not even the most respected in its, in the world of football. But it's fun, man. It is good ass football. It is important stuff. And if you're not paying attention to it, that's fine. That is totally fine. But I'm telling you, you are missing out on some great stuff. You're missing out on some great stuff everywhere that you're not looking. I just think that there's too many people not paying attention to the MAC. And so even if it's not going to be the league that you focus on every Saturday night from prime time on, make the MAC an important one for you. Just find a reason to get into it one way or another. If I've given you a reason to get excited for it in these podcast episodes, then I've done my job. Maybe a little bit. Anyways, hope you enjoy this show moving forward. Hope you enjoy, more importantly to me, this is honest to God, I'm going to say this. I really hope you enjoy this season way more than I hope you enjoy whatever I do this year. Because this season is going to, it's going to be really, really important. But And I know I'm going to be wrong about this prediction. I know I'm going to be wrong about this because damn it if there aren't some headaches that are going to come up over these next few months. But my prediction is that this is going to be the most fun season of your life. So you should enjoy it.